from the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus. This is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Sylvia Sena here with your 12 p.m. news update. Vancouver Mayor Kennedy Stewart voiced his reasons why supporting the Broadway plan during this morning conference. He brought representatives from Carolus and BC Tech to back him up. Reporter Mac Fleet has the latest.
The right kind of housing. Mayor Stewart said this early and often during Thursday morning's news conference. Mayor Stewart was referencing that 75% of homes that were built in 2010 were luxury condos. He wants the Broadway plan to accommodate everyday renters instead.
We were building lots of the wrong type of housing in 2010. Now we are building a lot more of the right kind of housing in 2022. And we need to keep building more of the right kind of housing along Broadway.
This was the mayor's final pitch for the Broadway plan before it gets brought up to City Council on May 18th. Mac Fleet, 1680, The Crow.
We are now joined live by reporter Mac Fleet. So, Mac, why did the representatives from BC Tech and Carolus have to say?
Well, Sylvia, they shared the mayor's vision for the Broadway plan. They believe the affordable housing will help alleviate some of the pressure some companies are facing from staff shortages.
And what does the city plan on doing for renters who live on Broadway if their homes has to get redeveloped?
The city has offered current Broadway renters compensation or a new rental suite at the same price or lower if they have to move. In some circumstances, they might even look at upgrading your living situation if you live in a crowded home. Back to you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Mac. And another video of teen violence has been circulating on social media in Metro Vancouver. In the images, it's possible to see two teenagers bullying another youth outside a Point Grey school. The video came only one day after VPD issued a bullying warning to the community. The police said they have received the video and are now investigating. However, no arrest has been made. And as traffic tragedies surface in other municipalities, the city of Richmond has been reviewing recommendations to streamline school zones' traffic safety measures. Reporter Carissa Chang explains.
Staff from the Richmond Transportation Department is currently sharing toolkits with principals on what traffic safety measures are missing in their school zones. Most principals' responses have been positive, but convenience for residents in school areas are a concern. Dave Madeira, Richmond parent, says traffic safety programs are a balancing act.
And then the thing is, you're competing with the desire of locals. For example, they want to be able to park, and then the desire of the parents that have their kids in that area maybe don't want the parking because it obscures drivers from seeing smaller kids that are trying to cross the street.
Officials say that improvements will start to get put in later this year once a program is developed. Carissa Cheng, 1680 The Crow.
And Nanaimo police are warning nightclubs customers to keep an eye on their drinks. The statement comes after several events of spiked drinks were reported last weekend in downtown Nanaimo. Officials were first warned about the issue after two people were sent to the hospital on Friday. According to the investigation, the victims ingested drugs without their knowledge. And there is no denying that the pandemic has put the world on the new levels of stress. And as a result, dentists have noticed an increased number of their patients coming in with cracked teeth. Victor Gaucher has more.
Losses due to forced closures, increased PPE expenses, and less clientele, these are some of the issues dentists experienced throughout the pandemic. However, as clinics began to open up, Dr. Bruce Ward noticed a trend in some patients.
There's definitely been an uptick in people cracking teeth, breaking cusps off their teeth, and also having jaw problems. If you're under a lot of stress, a lot of people take it out during the night by grinding and clenching their teeth.
To resolve stress sleeping, Dr. Ward suggests moving to the beach and living there. If this isn't possible, there are plastic mouth guards dentists recommend that put less strain on the teeth and the jaw muscles. Victor Gaucher, 1680, The Crow.
And if you want to know more about this story and listen to the full interview, tune in to For the Record at 12:20 here on 1680 The Crow. And the 7th case of avian flu has been detected in British Columbia. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says this is the first case on Vancouver Island. They also say it happened in a small flock in the Comox Valley, and the infected location is now under quarantine. Still, according to the agency, the flu has probably spread through contact with infected migrating wild birds. The province has now extended its order for all commercial poultry operators with more than 100 birds to move their flocks indoors until June 13th. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau just announced in a press conference that Canada will send a general and order 6 staff officers to join NATO's multinational division.
Of a first-of-its-kind unit in the Northern Baltic Sea region to help plan, coordinate, and integrate regional military activities. It'll serve as a continued and important part of our enhancements to NATO's defense and deterrence capabilities.
Trudeau believes Canada's contributions to NATO defense will make Russian President Vladimir Putin reconsider expanding aggression into NATO territory. And the federal government has approved an approximately $10 billion loan guarantee for the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. Canada says this is a common practice and will not reflect any additional public funding. Reporter Emily Joveski from the Canadian Press has the details.
In February, Trans Mountain Corporation revealed that the project's price tag had ballooned to $21.4 billion, up from an earlier estimate of $12.6 billion. At that time, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland said there would be no additional public funding for the pipeline. The $10 billion loan guarantee was approved by Cabinet on April 29th through the Canada account at Crown Corporation Export Development Canada. It's being criticized by environmental groups and opposition politicians who see it as Freeland going back on her word. Emily Joveski, the Canadian Press.
And astronomers have just released the first image of a supermassive black hole located in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Reporter Derek Dennis from ABC News has the story.
It's been astronomical lore for decades, the infamous black hole at the center of the Milky Way. Now a new image produced by scientists snapped using a special telescope.
The first direct image of the gentle giant in the center of our galaxy, Sagittarius A star.
Farial Ozel, a professor of astronomy and physics at the University of Arizona, helping to make the announcement. It's only the second black hole ever to be pictured. The hole and its environment will now be studied further as a breakthrough in understanding the galaxy. Derek Dennis, ABC News.
And now let's move on to our weather update. The rain you're seeing right now will persist throughout the whole day today, with the highest temperature being 10 degrees and the lowest being 5 degrees. And with the weekend being right around the corner, I might have some more bad news for you guys. The rain will continue for the next few days, with Sunday having a 100% chance of rain. But we all know that could change, so stay tuned for more weather updates. Right now, the thermometers are at 9 degrees. I'm Sylvia Sena, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
This is sports on 1680 The Crow.
Hello, my name is Marcus Pelzer, and here are your sports headlines to 12:10. Haley Wickenheiser has been inducted to the 2022 class of the Canada Sports Hall of Fame. Wickenheiser was a legend for women's hockey, winning 7 World Championship gold medals. Other names that were inducted were Adam Van Coverden, Dwayne DeLazio, lacrosse player John Tavares, and Tim McIsaac. Canucks forward Juho Lammikko will be joining Team Finland in the World Championship tournament. The 26-year-old player's first season with the Canucks this season, coming from a trade that included Olli Juolevi. He had 7 goals and 8 assists for 15 points in 75 games this season. Lammikko will be an RFA this up-and-coming offseason. Leafs forward Austin Matthews was nominated for the Hart Trophy for the second year in a row. The Toronto Maple Leafs play tonight in against the Tampa Bay Lightning for Game 6. Matthews says he isn't paying much attention to the nomination.
It's a big honor, but I think right now, obviously, the focus isn't really much on that. It's more on what we're going through right now, what tonight means, obviously, to this team, and just a great opportunity for us.
After McDavid's Hart nomination, the Oilers are in LA tonight for Game 6. Coach Jay Woodcroft says that the defensive effort last game wasn't good.
You're in a playoff series. Things happen. We lost in overtime. That said, we scored 4 goals. That should be enough to win a game. There's some things that we can do better defensively for sure.
And the Blues and the Wild continue their series tonight in St. Louis. Goaltender Cam Talbot will get the start for the first time this series. Wild captain Jared Spurgeon says they have a good mentality coming into Game 6.
We have a group that fights to the end, and every game we seem to do that. So to be able to go out there and just have the confidence that we've been able to do it throughout the regular season, and obviously coming playoffs, we're going to have to do it again here.
Thomas Chabot was named captain for Team Canada at the World Championship. Chabot had 38 points in 59 games this season in the NHL. Meanwhile, Josh Anderson, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Damon Severson, and Adam Lowry were named alternate captains. The CFL and its Players Association meet again today to resume contract talks. The CFLPA says that 6 of the 9 teams will be on strike. This will happen after the current collective bargaining agreement ends on Saturday, 11:59. There are 3 teams where this is an exception, with the Calgary Stampeders, Edmonton Elks, and the Montreal Alouettes. Now time for NBA basketball. The Miami Heat are 1 win away from advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second time in 3 years. Forward Jimmy Butler has been on fire these playoffs, averaging 28 points on 53% shooting. Butler is confident that his team can take one on the road.
Like I told the team back, we just did what we were supposed to do. I don't think winning at home was a surprise to anybody. They did what they were supposed to do the past 2 games. Now we're supposed to go and win one on the road, do the hard job. I think we're capable of it if we get some stops.
And the Dallas Mavericks are hosting the Phoenix Suns tonight for Game 6. Mavs star Luka Doncic explains what the Mavs need to do for the game.
Just gotta go back home, play the same way we play home. I know our fans gonna be amazing, and just play hard in 48 minutes.
Tip-off is at 6:30. The round of 16 between Denis Shapovalov and Rafael Nadal are currently in the second set. The winner of the match will go on and play Casper Ruud in the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Felix Auger-Aliassime will play number 1 ranked Novak Djokovic, which is set for tomorrow. And Bianca Andreescu will face Iga Swiatek in a quarterfinal match. The Blue Jays are in Tampa to kick off a 3-game series against the Rays. Kevin Gausman is your projected starter for the Jays. He has a 3-1 record with a 2.13 ERA in 6 starts this year. He has also struck out 46 batters and has only walked 1. The Rays will be going to Drew Rasmussen for the first game. Rasmussen is also 3-1 and has 26 strikeouts in 28 innings pitched. The Blue Jays sit in 3rd place in the AL East, while the Rays are in 2nd. The Mariners have a tough test for the weekend facing the New York Mets. Pitcher Marco Gonzalez is slated to start. Gonzalez is 1-4 on the season with a 3.94 ERA. 3-time Cy Young winner Max Scherzer will be on the mound for the Mets. Scherzer is 4-1 with 49 strikeouts in 6 games played. The Mariners are coming into the matchup with a 14-18 record, while the Mets are 21-11. Thank you so much for listening to your sports headlines. I'm Marcus Pelzer, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hello, you're listening to For the Record on 1680 The Crow. I'm your host, Victor Gaucher, and my guest on The Crow today is Dr. Bruce Ward. We're discussing the issues the pandemic has brought to the dental industry, including an increased number of stress-related teeth cracks caused from the uncertainty around COVID-19. As a general practice dentist, Dr. Bruce Ward has practiced for over 35 years and is also the spokesperson for the BC Dental Association's Public Education Program. Dr. Ward, thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome, Victor. Nice talking to you.
So just to get us started, just how big was the pandemic's impact on the dental industry?
Oh, it's huge. In March of 2020, when Dr. Henry basically shut our industry down for 2.5 months, and said, all offices need to stop working, and a few offices stayed open for like serious dental problems, depending on their level of protection and their facilities and things like that. But very few offices stayed open. The majority of us closed for an extended period of time, at least 2 months, and so that was a huge earthquake in our industry. And then when we came back, we had to make all these other changes, and they were not easy to do. We had to look at our room setups. We had to look at protecting our front office staff. We had to look at getting adequate protection, working out protocols that were new and different for the office, and there's lots of different changes that we had to make.
Yeah, no doubt. I imagine a bit of people were a little apprehensive to come back and sit in a chair with.
Extremely, yeah. I mean, you went from keep 6 feet apart and always wear a mask to take your mask off and let somebody be a foot away from your mouth. So yeah. But the good news is that dentists have been practicing for years, ever since AIDS and SARS and a few of the other pandemic or diseases came along. We've been actually upping our ante in terms of infection control and sterilization protocols. So the truth is that there really hasn't been a documented case of transfer of COVID from patients to dental staff or dentists, or vice versa, from dentists to patients since the pandemic started, and that's a tribute to all the precautions that we take, and ever since COVID, all the protocols that have been put in place. Dentists and dental staff have gotten ill, but it's not from being in the office; it's from what happens outside the office usually. But there hasn't been any transfer back and forth.
Well, that's really good to hear. That's definitely calms the nerves for people out there that were a little nervous to sit in a chair with their mouth open.
But it was still confronting for people. You know what I'm saying? It was still very confronting for people to come and lay there. So it took a long time, or it took quite a while for people to finally get over their concern. And even today, there's still a lot of people who are putting off appointments or deciding to wait a little longer until things are a little more under control.
Yeah. So have you noticed any kind of uptake in people with either cavities from not seeing a dentist for a while, or cracked or ground down teeth as a result of stress?
I think the cavity situation isn't so clear or prevalent, but there's definitely been an uptick in people cracking teeth, breaking cusps off their teeth, and also having jaw problems. If you're under a lot of stress, a lot of people take it out during the night by grinding and clenching their teeth, and that actually puts a lot of stress on your teeth as well as on your jaw joint. And so, yes, there's been a lot of people coming in who've been under, it's not simply COVID, but it's all the things that have come out of COVID, uncertainty about people's jobs, just uncertainty about life in general, and it makes for difficult sleeping for a lot of people, and so yeah, there's been definitely more of that over the last couple of years, I think. And that's anecdotal. I don't know that there's been any studies, but most dentists will tell you that people have been breaking teeth a lot, and most people have been, not most people, but a lot of people have been breaking teeth. A lot of people have been coming in with pain in their jaws and say that they think they're clenching at night or grinding at night.
Right. And so if we're assuming that this is stress related, what can be done to better prepare themselves to mitigate their disasters with their teeth?
Well, I guess you could move to Fiji and live on the beach for the rest of your life. That's one of the ways. Short of that, obviously it's fixing the broken teeth when they break, and there's some treatments that can be used to alleviate the trauma that comes from grinding and clenching. It's unbelievable. I don't know if I ask my patients to clench their teeth like really tight, they can only do it for maybe 30 seconds or a minute, and then it just becomes too painful and uncomfortable for their jaw to keep clenched that tight. Whereas at night, when you're asleep, you can do it for an hour straight, and because you're asleep, you don't notice it. So you can really do some harm to your joint, and grinding as well. When you grind your teeth at night, it sounds like two pieces of ivory squeaking together, and people will do that sometimes for an hour or two a night, and it sounds like someone eating carrots. It's that loud, and if you ask somebody to do that when they're awake, they can't do it because it's too uncomfortable for them, and yet they can do it for an hour or two at night and wake up in the morning and wonder why their jaw and teeth feel sore.
Right.
So the treatment for that is usually some kind of splint that we put into people's mouths, and it's made of a hard plastic, and it sits on the upper jaw or the lower jaw, and so if people do clench their teeth, instead of going tooth to tooth, they're actually going tooth to plastic, and it's kind of like skating all of a sudden. There's way less resistance to the grinding, and it actually gives some relief. There's some patients who grind their teeth heavily and have nighttime bruxing habits. It's called bruxing, nighttime habits like that. And if they lose or break their mouth guard, they can't sleep. I mean, they're desperate to get another one before long because they really can't sleep because it's too uncomfortable for them. So that it's a way of alleviating that. Some people don't like it or can't have something in their mouth, but the majority of people who do grind or brush their teeth, having one of these splints really helps their jaw joints a lot.
How did these splints differ from something you would see in, say, martial arts or football or something like that?
Martial arts and football, those splints are, well, football and martial arts, those are sports guards, so they tend to be a little thicker and a little more substantial. They sometimes they're a little bit softer as well, whereas these splints are quite rigid, so that what you want is you don't want to have a situation where you can close onto the splint and have your teeth kind of sink into them. You want them actually to slide around on the splint to take away any kind of resistance. Because if you wear a soft splint to bed at night and then you clench your teeth really hard and try to move your jaw, it actually locks your jaw in place because teeth don't move on the splint that easily. Where if it's a hard splint or if it's a bruxing splint, it's engineered to allow your teeth to move across the surface of the splint and not impede the joints.
Right, and then that would alleviate some of the pressure on the jaw muscle that you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If you're just tuning in now, I'm your host, Victor Gaucher, with my guest, Dr. Bruce Ward, and you're listening to For the Record on 1680 The Crow. Dr. Ward is speaking with us today on the increased number of patients with cracked teeth and how people can feel better about their post-pandemic dentist visit. So, Dr. Ward, let's just circle back to navigating the pandemic as a dentist. What were the biggest issues you had to face?
Well, first of all, it was making sure that patients and staff and ourselves feel comfortable coming to the office. So we had to put certain protocols in place, like it used to be you'd book everybody starting your day at, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning. And so you'd have a waiting room full of people, and then, your hygienist and the dentist and the assistants would all take their patients out of the waiting room, and they'd all be treated, and then they'd all come back to the front desk at once. And so there's lots of opportunities for people to crowd around the desk and be in the waiting room. So we've actually had to stagger appointments. So everybody has different appointment start times, and the object is to not have anybody sitting in the waiting room waiting. We have no magazines in there anymore, so that people aren't transferring stuff to the magazines, and no toys for the kids. It's kind of turned into a much more sterile waiting room space. But that's one of the big things, just to make people feel comfortable. Quite often people will call and we have them wait outside, and then they'll come in when it's time for their appointment, so they can just walk right into the office. Obviously, we're having people wear masks, and we're all wearing masks all day long. It's just having people, and we're screening people. We're taking their temperatures. Some offices have people do a pre mouth rinse with a peroxide mouthwash, so that they clean up any bacteria or viruses that are in the mouth. Using the rubber dam a lot. We're trying to watch out for creating not too many aerosols in the space, so that the next patient who comes into a perfectly clean operatory that's been really rubbed down well. So we've actually had to take less patients in a day and do less work in a day, just in order to sterilize and clean the areas up. Bathrooms, we ask people to not use our bathrooms. They have to, then we go in and right after they've been in the bathroom and clean it up each time, which we never used to have to do before. Once a day was good enough. So it's just about making people and staff feel comfortable. Staff doesn't really eat together anymore. We used to always eat together in a small lunchroom. Now everybody kind of has staggered lunch hours, and they eat by themselves usually and come back. And so it's much, it's been different in terms of socializing in the office for the staff, but it makes everybody feel safer and more comfortable in the chair.
Right. So with the staggered start time or staggered schedule times that you mentioned, and maybe with the uptake of people with cracked teeth or something, was it difficult to kind of get everyone seen and treated?
There was certainly when things started to ease off, like when we were allowed to come back to work in June of 2020, there was quite a rush for people who wanted to come in, who had issues, who'd had broken teeth or who'd had toothaches or that kind of thing. It's back to somewhat normal now, actually. I'd say it's pretty normal in terms of the flow coming and going. If you were busy before the pandemic, you're going to be busy after the pandemic and that kind of stuff. But we were actually seeing less people. My hygienists are seeing one less patient a day than they did before the pandemic, just because we're taking time to clean up between each visit. And most of us aren't taking a long lunch. We used to take an hour lunch. Now we're only taking 15 or 20 minutes, just because of the way the timing works. So yeah, it's all about getting the people in, but making sure that the operatories and the operatories are clean and that people feel comfortable coming in.
Absolutely. One less patient a day doesn't seem too bad, so that's good to hear. People are still getting their checkups. Yeah,
but it's significant. And when you think about it, if you saw 8 patients a day, now you're seeing 7. That's a 15 or 18% drop in your productivity because of the pandemic, and the same in the dentist chair as well. So it has had an impact on the bottom line. Plus, there's more PPEs required, and a higher level of PPE is necessary. So there have been costs to the dentist from the pandemic, for sure.
Right. I just want to circle back to one thing you mentioned before. So the strain that can go onto the muscle in the mouth. Obviously, we don't want to crack our teeth, so that's one thing. But the muscle in the mouth, what can be done to kind of help alleviate that?
Well, there's, as I said, the causative agent is usually stress, and so that usually stimulates activity when you're asleep. And as I said, when you're asleep, you really can do some damage, because you're not awake and conscious about how uncomfortable it is, or how much pain you're actually causing yourself. So, there's not much you can do about the stress. I don't know how you can treat it. Like I said, sort of, leaving work, leaving a bad relationship, finding some place where there's no COVID. I don't know, just somewhere where you'll actually be able to sleep better. But and again, the only thing that you can do is wear some kind of splint. And physiotherapists and some dentists are very good at treating joint and trauma to the joint. And there's exercises that you can do, and there's even some medications that you can use. But getting a little severe at this point. A splint is a much easier way to do something, and it's way less invasive than starting to take drugs or that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dr. Ward. That's our time for today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me about this.
Well, thanks for asking.
All right, I'm your host, Victor Gaucher, and this has been For the Record on 1680 The Crow.
Can you imagine having to shut up for 2 years? That's how it felt for Ty Koch, one of the emergent musicians of Vancouver. But before going too deep into the challenges he faced during COVID, let's hear about Ty and his love for music.
Music was always something I had just done, especially with singing. It was almost like subconscious. I just always did it. There wasn't ever a time where I didn't see myself singing. It was always something.
Ty Koch has been booked across Canada and Europe playing his own music or singing classical music with a core. And that's how he envisioned his musical career, never sticking with just one genre.
Yeah, they're very different. Because when I'm playing with the band, with the guys, like I'm just having fun. Like it's not stressful really. And even then, it's like you're kind of just like you're showing off a little bit. Like it's a different thing. Whereas when it comes to classical music, I feel like the music's, I mean, in comparison to music I write, I feel like it's more important. Like, and there's a lot more things to consider because the music's a lot more challenging rather than something I wrote. Because if it's my own, I can just do what I want. But following the classical music, there's very specific things that are dictated in the music that you have to follow.
But what looked to be the rising of a new promising career came to a full stop, all thanks to COVID-19.
I think it's bad to try and frame it like that. Obviously, I've had those thoughts of like, oh, I would have been that much more ahead, and that's something that I did struggle with at first. But like, I mean, the more you just kind of reflect on stuff like that, the worse it gets. Because if you just spend all of your time thinking, oh, I could have had this, I could have had that, and then you just don't end up doing anything, which is what happened to me for quite a little while. It was like I was just sad. I had all these opportunities and they vanished. Like I was going to do like a tour in Europe with the choir I work for, and I had all these other things planned, but that was the same situation for everyone. So you can't spend forever dwelling on what could have been.
Ty faced depression during the pandemic, and in music and friends, he found a way to cope with an uncertain future of his musical career.
I think it was literally like a coping thing. So it was like, for me, it was always like, oh, whenever I like felt upset or like angry or anything, it was like, oh, I can go play the blues music, go play on my guitar. So it was like, just to distract myself, that was what I did when I couldn't go out and see friends or like interact with anyone. I was just at home, basement, just cranking as loud as I could. Beginning of COVID, I played guitar so obsessively that I got tendinitis. So I was playing like 6 hours every day. I got way better, but now my wrist isn't quite as strong.
But for his roommate, Michael McKenzie, it just wasn't very nice to hear live music all the time.
It's nice for the most part. Occasionally it's pretty annoying when he's singing and I'm trying to nap, but other than when I'm napping, it's nice background noise, He changes it up, whether it be opera or, because depending if it's his church stuff or his own music, it's either like blues, rock, or like opera, hymns.
Now that things have started to reopen, there isn't a boom like in other markets because, as Ty describes, COVID affected an industry that in Vancouver was already decaying before the pandemic.
And I think the unfortunate part with Vancouver is there isn't a lot of live venues. So now that it's finally coming back, there's other opportunities that are popping up, but it was like already kind of a dying music scene, unfortunately. People just don't really love to go to live music, which is pretty sad.
But not everything is bad. There are new opportunities and venues opening. Plus, Ty will finally be able to quit his job as a lifeguard.
I think there's some things that, like there's some, I know friends that I'm working with who are working towards opening other venues or working with other venues, because there's a format already in place in Vancouver that doesn't really work in terms of like live music. So there's people just looking at other avenues, so there's more opportunities. within the city at least. And then for me, I've now taken a leave of my job as a lifeguard just because I needed a break, and I'm just going mostly all in on the music.
Like all new artists, Ty will have to regain the positioning and popularity he lost due to COVID. And to do so, Ty will be touring in Vancouver Island during the summer and will be releasing new music in late June. David Nava,
Dennis Shinolu, 1680 The Crow.
It's getting to be that time of year again. It's battle time. I start planning all that, but it's also the anniversary of our loss, Zachary Koss, and the anniversary of his last show. And right behind me is where Zach had his last photos taken and where he performed his last show. B-O-R-T-A-L-B-E-R-N-I, this is where I arrived, like Biggie Smalls cord wrapped around my neck. And I sat around that night. Should I go? Should I go? I haven't seen him on stage. Oh, there'll be other times. Should I go? Should I go? I'm pretty sure I could go. And I dragged my butt down here at 11 o'clock when they hit the stage and sat in the back corner and watched it and just could not believe it. I was so pleased. My heart was so full. He was just such a natural performer. Had no idea, hadn't seen him on the stage before. And I thank my lucky stars every day that I came and saw that show. And for battle, I would always encourage, go watch your children play. Go watch them play. It means everything to them. And there's no guarantee you're leaving first. My son Zach was a passenger in a vehicle where the driver fell asleep. A tired brain is just as impaired as an alcohol brain. So having a tired driver shouldn't be an option. And I think it's a huge message for people to be rested or to keep your driver awake. We were invited out to the 5 Acre Shaker in 2014, and it was the first summer after he had passed. He had passed in April of 2014. The money that they made from 5 Acre Shaker, they gave to us, and we didn't know these people. But they had invited us out as family, and we didn't know them, and we came out onto the property, and it still gives me chills. There was a big plaque up in the tree with his birthday and his death day and his name. His band drove out onto the property in his vehicle, and they took the stage and they piped in his voice. And we stood there as family, and we could hear him, and we could see them crying and trying to perform, and all that money came to us. Well, the following year, we're like, what do we do with this? What do we do with this money? I mean, it came with such a positive energy and so much love. And it was a friend again, close friend, who said, I see a battle of the bands for young people.
My name is Drake Shoemaker. I'm 20 years old. I participated in 4 of the battles back when I was in high school, so that would have been from when I was 15 until when I was 18. I mean, me and then some of the people that played in my band, we had never even played shows before. We were just playing guitar like at our own house. So to have this outlet where not only you and your friends, but like dozens of other people who were just like you could come and play music for a night, and we get to hang out and honor each other. Like, yeah, I think that was a super positive thing, and it definitely brought a lot of people in the community into the scene. All different types of music. There was rock, there was hip hop. I saw like folk bands, there was all sorts of cool things. And it's just kind of like, you know, bringing the music together. I knew that it was something that was really powerful for the people that knew Zach and for Kim and everyone who organized it. So even being somebody who wasn't part of the scene when this, you know, tragedy happened, it still carries a lot of weight participating in it years later. And it was still really meaningful, even though I didn't like know him personally back in the day. We still took it really seriously and wanted to like honor his legacy by doing the battle.
I can't go shopping for his birthday gift or his Christmas gifts anymore. I can't cook a birthday dinner or invite him over, you know, for lunch or take him shopping. I can't give that energy to him or the family that might have been. So this is where I give my energy for him now.
That's it. They just sent out the secret location. Let's go.
Underground raves have been a beloved staple in the electronic music industry for years. Late-night dance parties with secret locations and a full lineup of DJs ready to play music until the early hours of the morning. Colton, Liam, and Eddie founded Raves by Raves together during the pandemic in Kelowna. They say their goal is to bring life back to the rave community and support the artists and the industry that have been majorly stifled by the pandemic. Tonight they're playing their second underground volume show in Vancouver, which surely won't be the last. This is Dancing Underground.
It's after 11 on a brisk and clear Friday night in Vancouver. If it wasn't for the loud music pulsing through the walls, you would never guess there was a party happening inside the abandoned warehouse with a for lease sign on the front. Walking down the back alley, you find a gate with a small crack in it to squeeze through, and then you're in. The empty lot is filled with people in bright outfits, smoking, chatting, and taking a break from dancing. To get into the rave, you enter an unmarked door and follow the music down a short white hallway. Once you're inside, you're stamped with a smiley face and ready to party. The crowd is already surrounding the stage for the first set of the night from DJ duo Daz Nasty, while Colton and Liam work behind the scenes to make sure tonight's underground rave runs smoothly.
My DJ name is Cole, and it is that because my name is Colton. Eddie and I founded the company in October of 2020. We did a Halloween party. Wasn't really much. It was just like 40 people at this little clothing store. It wasn't really anything major. We didn't really know what we wanted to do with it. We had like an Instagram handle. We had like a shitty logo. And then summer of 2021, I moved out of home. I moved into a place with two of the other artists, and I got booked for I think like 10 kind of bush raves, and I brought them to pretty much all of them and got them sets at it. And then so I kind of was just like, I'm kind of technically managing. Basically, I decided then and there that I was going to bring on two more artists, kind of like as like almost like an artist roster, because I was technically already managing Daz Nasty for the summer, and then I brought those guys on, and then and then it kind of just spiraled into my best friend Liam wanted to join, and then it spiraled into us now having 10 artists total on the roster.
The community, let me just start off by saying that you meet a lot of amazing people. Everyone, and it's not even just about the rave community, it's just about music and art in general. So that's the beauty and the concept and like this common ground where everyone can come together and relate to each other and strictly be there for the music. We've always heard, especially in the rave community, the cliche terminology plur, right? Peace, love, unity, respect is cliche, and as corny as it may sound, it's a real thing, right? And it draws a really nice, tight-knit, strong community together, and that's the beauty of it. We're all here for the same reasons. We're all here to enjoy ourselves, enjoy the music, and express ourselves. And that's like one of the most beautiful aspects of life, music and art in general.
It's even in the name Raves by Raves. We like to keep it almost anonymous in a sense, and you don't know where it's going to be. Where our events, we never release the location until the day of. And I like to keep an entire persona around the whole brand as like an if you know, you know. Like you're not going to see an ad on it on Facebook. You're not going to see like this. It's like if you know someone, and they tell you, that's how you know, word of mouth, versus doing the tech talks and doing the promotion and doing this and that. It's kind of like, if you know, you know.
A smoke machine in the corner of the room sprays a hazy cloud over the dancing crowd. It's easy to see how much the attendees are excited to be there, just from the expressions on their faces at their joyous dance moves. Under the flashing lights and pulsing music, they feel a strong sense of community, with the raves meaning just as much to them as they do to the artists.
It's such a universal experience, it just feels so exclusive. I love how, the address isn't released right away, it's such a secret, but it's such an amazing experience. It's nothing I've ever experienced before.
It's just good energy the whole time, and you just feel really happy to be a part of it.
And for a pandemic, it just blows me away how the energy still comes and it's still so alive. And it's such a vibe. The whole family, it's a giant community, and it really...
It's all such good people that come out to these. Like, you're just going to meet such good people every single time. Like, people that you kind of see around, and they're going to know your face, and, like, you can say hi after, and, like, you make such good friends, and people that love the same thing as you do.
It's a community.
Cameron St. Dennis has been in the electronic music industry for over 15 years, beginning his career in Los Angeles. He started working with Colton and Raised by Raves in Vancouver 6 months ago, after meeting Colton at a Bush Music Festival during the pandemic.
In comparison to LA, I mean, the only comparison I would really make is just the potential that Vancouver and the Lower Mainland is showcasing. The amount of talent here, the amount of people in the scene that I have gotten to work with is, I think, more versatile, more open-hearted, open-minded. The general vibe here is it's so fresh and young, so there's a lot of things that are being worked out, but in that same breath, I would say that there is a huge potential here to be one of the cornerstones of the underground market. Not only underground, but just electronic music in general. We haven't had an event that hasn't sold out for the last 6 months. We held off from doing anything until about a month and a half before the pandemic started, all the mandates started getting lifted. So just the energy that we pulled out of like the deprivation of our followers and our fans, just the energy that we got out of that first one we did here in Vancouver was just, it was incomparable. I don't think I've ever felt that full, my heart, my soul, it's just amazing to see people actually coming back together and being able to dance and hug and rave. Like, it was such a good feeling, and now we're continuing that.
In the true sense of their underground vibe, Raised by Raves wanted to keep what they have planned next a secret for now, but they have many plans for the post-pandemic future.
I have a philosophy of mine for one of my favorite artists, Nipsey Hussle. He's not even like a DJ or anything, he's a rapper actually. And one piece out of a song, I Do This, he has like a big long philosophy at the beginning of it, and a little piece that really reciprocates and resonates really deep with me. Is some of the best teaching in life is your own experience. None of us know who we are until we fail. And that in itself, I feel like that experience of coming out of post-pandemic where we are now to go and have those experiences of, playing at events like this, curating events, working with your friends, releasing music, doing branding, social networking, going to live. I think some of the most enjoyable parts are going to shows that aren't even your own sometimes,
This is Samantha Holmay signing off for now with Riley Sarazin, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. This is Seamus Page with your 1 p.m. news and sports update. The year-long strike at one Metro Vancouver hotel has ended with a 98% vote in favor of a new deal. The staff at the Hilton Metrotown in Burnaby have agreed on a 3-year contract, including bringing back 97 fired employees without loss of wages or status, and the staff are heading back to work. However, there is still more work to be done for other hotels. One strike continues at the Pacific Gateway Hotel in Richmond, where workers have been on a strike for a year, citing mass firings. Unite Here Local 40, who represents the staff both at the Hilton and Pacific Gateway, are planning a rally at 5 to support the strikers. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says the 7th case of avian flu in BC has been found in a flock in Comox. This is the first case on Vancouver Island, and the location is now quarantined. The agency maintains that the flu spreads through contact with wild birds. BC has ordered all poultry operations to move their flocks inside until June 13th. Talks between Whistler transit workers and their employer have broken down. This means that a return to bus services for the Sea to Sky corridor isn't expected anytime soon. People were hopeful when hearing of a meeting between the union and PW Transit as it began for the first time in weeks. However, the union stated that the contractor refused to consider other options for wage parity to that of Metro Vancouver drivers. The contractor has said that they presented 2 wage proposals but were turned down. As of right now, all transit in the Sea to Sky Highway region is paused indefinitely. BC Mounties have said that they're increasing patrols near construction sites for the Coastal GasLink pipeline. This comes on the heels of a UN human rights organization saying it received information alleging surveillance and use of force escalating against opposition in the region. A statement from Corporal Madonna Saunderson claims that they have been trying to ensure no one impedes access to construction. The RCMP also says that they have not had any enforcement related to the opposition of the pipeline since September. Ontario NDP party leader Andrea Horwath has said that if the NDP wins the June election for Ontario, she would deliver universal mental health care. With access to health care already being a struggle, she has noted one of the biggest barriers for citizens is cost.
We know that mental health care can cost up to $200 or in some cases more for a single therapy session. And that's why we're focusing on bringing it into OHIP so that we build a system. The system we have now isn't even really a system. It's really fragmented. It's really disjointed.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with a Latvian Prime Minister Krišjānis Kariņš today. The goal of the meeting was to discuss military cooperation concerning Russia's war with Ukraine. The Latvian Prime Minister thanked Canada for spearheading military efforts in his country. They had this to say about the meeting.
It's primarily a message to Moscow and to Putin that we are dead serious about defending ourselves. Don't even think about coming this way.
Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has appointed Ranil Wickremesinghe to be the new Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. The newly appointed Prime Minister has had the job 5 times before. His appointment comes as an attempt to stabilize the country, which has been embroiled in political and economic unrest. The new Prime Minister is a contentious choice, but he took his oath at the President's residence today. Wickremesinghe comes in after Rajapaksa's brother resigned following attacks on protesters by his supporters. Now on to sports.
Lysell, White Spot power play, Lysell, Cotton. Lysell, slot, Cotton, one-timer scores!
The Vancouver Giants are playing again tonight in Game 4 against the Kamloops Blazers. The Giants have a chance to tie the series tonight, and they hope to keep the energy of last night's win going when puck drops at 7 p.m. in the Langley Event Center. NHL playoffs continue tonight with all 4 games having the chance to be the series end. Out east, the Carolina take on the Bruins, while the Leafs will be taking on the Lightnings. In the West, St. Louis could claim the series against Minnesota Wild, while the Kings could win their series against the Oilers. NBA playoffs also continue with another set of games that could be series-ending, with the Miami Heat coming up against the 76ers and the Phoenix Suns going up against the Suns. For your weather today, it is currently 8 degrees with light rain and is set to be a high of 10 with a low of 8 and more showers tonight. This has been your 1 p.m. news and sports update. I'm Seamus Page with 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.